You're listening to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM. During the next hour, the Archdiocese of Chicago brings you programs about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Welcome to Catholic Chicago.
Welcome to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM, 312-255-8408. We are again live streaming here from Chicago, headquarters of the Pastoral Center. Father Greg Sakowicz, rector of Holy Name Cathedral. And, as Mark reminded me, we are wearing our masks because we are social distancing here on live streaming. And again, Father Greg Sakowicz, rector of Holy Name Cathedral. And co-host, Mark Teresi, who is the new executive director with me at Holy Name Cathedral. How was your Thanksgiving Day weekend, Mark?
It was very good. I want to do one shout-out to Margaret Considine. After the show, I'm heading to a funeral at St. Clement's. Margaret Considine was the oldest parishioner at St. Clement's. She moved there when she was 4 years old. She died last week at the age of 98.
So parishioner for 94 years. God bless her. And the funeral is today at St. Clement's. I think with Father Emil Fajardo. And also my condolences, deepest sympathy. You buried your sister Fran Saturday. I was there, and you did a beautiful job singing, Mark, for your own sister's funeral.
Thank you.
Sister Fran, so God bless. And tremendous program. Well, also, just a little sidebar. We can't even talk about the Chicago Bears.
Well, you can, but what are you going to say?
This guy, Aaron Rodgers, he was like a surgeon. He just dissected the Bear defense and just made it look easy.
And he's, 37 years old?
Roughly, he's been around. He's a veteran. Yeah. And the Bears, you can't just totally blame the offense, which is always lousy, but the defense, they didn't show up.
That mask you wore at Mass didn't help at all.
The Chicago Bears mask was certainly did not help. We have a great program lined up. 3-1. Can't even talk about the Bears anymore. It's just too sickening. Glad it wasn't on Thanksgiving. Would have ruined the meal. And 312-255-8408. Catholic Lawyers Guild Advent Retreat, bringing all we are into what we do, spiritual practices in our work as lawyers and in our home as Christians. And with us for the first half hour, two very well-known, outstanding men. Jack Shea, retreat leader and theologian, and Judge Thomas Moore Donnelly, Associate Judge, Circuit Court of Cook County. Good morning to both of you. How are you, Jack? How are you, Tom?
Good, Father Greg. Good, Mark.
Good morning. Welcome.
Did both of you happen to watch the Bears game at all last night, Jack or Tom?
I gave it up for Advent. One half.
I gave it up for Advent.
Who watched the first half?
I watched the first half, Jack.
Yeah, Jack, and I was like at halftime it was 27-10. I said this game is over.
Yeah, that's what I said too.
The Bears offense couldn't score 28 points to beat them. They stood out in the field for 2 more nights, and it just ridiculous. And well, first of all, Judge Tom Donnelly, you've been on before the program for this annual retreat. First of all, I have to do a shout out to my sister Pam Menaker, who really organized the program this morning. To my sister Pam, she's recuperating from a hip replacement surgery. So Pam, my younger sister, because I happen to be the oldest, and Pam, our blessings and prayers are with you for a full recovery. And she's doing one day at a time, but I want to thank Pam for organizing the program. Maybe for a second, Tom, is the history of the Catholic Lawyers Guild gathering. How long have you been together?
About 86 years now. We started in the 1930s.
So since your childhood.
I was 20 in 1930, but
That's a good comeback.
I'm only a little older than you.
That's right. I think we're very, very close. And so the Catholic Lawyers Guild has been around for 80 plus years.
Yes.
Amazing.
So it's it's been a very powerful part of life for the legal community here in Chicago, and this day of retreat, which we're going to do virtually online, is so necessary for us, especially during this pandemic time when we are lawyers, like all those who are working often from their home, are isolated. So this is an opportunity for us to get together virtually and share with our marvelous leader, Jack Shea, some of our hopes and fears as we enter this holy season.
Now, how did you plan? How did you folks meet? Tom and Jack, how did you meet? Did you know each other before this Advent retreat plan, or did you meet planning this?
Jack's famous.
Well, I know that.
Oh, yeah, we all know that.
Greg thinks he's famous, but Jack is famous.
I attended a day of recollection he did at St. Giles Family Mass Community probably 30 years ago.
Wow.
So, he's also been around. I think, Jack, you were in your early 20s then, right?
Yes, I was. Thank you for that.
So now, Jack, how'd you come up with the title, Bringing All We Are into What We Do, Spiritual Practices in Our Work as Lawyers and Our Home as Christians?
Well, actually we started off, we're going to do this in March. And it was just going to be bringing all you are into what you do, and it was just going to be spiritual practices for the work of lawyers. And then it got delayed, of course, with COVID. And Jim Murray had called me, and it was hammered out with a committee of people that this would be a good topic to take a look at. And then we got delayed, of course, and then reconnected again, and they decided, well, we're going to be in Advent. Let's put together spiritual practices in the work we do and spiritual practices in our home at Advent Christmas time.
Yeah.
And so that's how we bridge the two of them.
Now, what is the core mission of the Catholic Lawyers Guild? What really motivates folks to join and be a part of it?
It's prayer, service, and celebration.
Wow.
So we join in prayer for the Red Mass, usually at Holy Name Cathedral. This year, because of construction, we didn't, but in October. We celebrate, we have occasions to celebrate those who bring Christ to the world through their work, people who take their legal practice and use it to enflesh Christ in their actual practice of law, and service. So, we try to do, especially our younger Catholic lawyers, do a lot of service, food, distribution for the homeless, working at soup kitchens. Pam Menaker, Greg's sister, her whole year was dedicated to not only service, but celebrating every month one volunteer who did something extraordinary among the legal community in our Catholic Lawyers Guild for the poor or the marginalized. So service is a big part of what we do. So it's really those three elements: prayer, service, and celebration.
Jack, you and I go back well over 40 years. You are an outstanding theologian, writer, preacher. In fact, you have so many great lines that I've copied over the years, but one that really struck me, you had a talk about 30 years ago, believe it or not, that I remember clearly. And
never asked again.
Yeah,
No.
no.
Just kidding.
Just kidding. One and done. And the great line was, things we take in quietly come out in noisy ways. Things we take in quietly come out in noisy ways. Now, you may not remember saying that because you've got so many great one-liners, but that one always struck me. So you always had this ability, for theological reflection, and I always known you somehow trying to connect the mystery of God with the mystery of our lives. Say more about that.
Well, that's exactly what the retreat is meant to do. It's going to be a very interactive retreat. There's going to be some input. I'm going to tell some stories, but basically I'm going to ask the people on the retreat to tell some of the stories of how they have brought their faith or spirituality into their practice of law, and then again how they bring it into their home at Christmas time, and let them tell those stories about things they have taken in that have come out either noisily or with a great deal of steadfastness in their work. And so it's really a time to pause in some way for this morning. It's sort of day of recollection retreat, and to have them look at these things that have been going on, have them talk to one another about it, and therefore reinforce them and celebrate them. As the judge said, it's about the service they've done, and this will be done in a context of prayer. So the three things that the Catholic Lawyer Guild holds there will be there, and there'll be a liturgy at the end, so there'll be celebration. So that's pretty much what we're going to be about. We're going to sort of ask questions that are going to elicit stories and reflections and some wisdom about spirituality and the workplace, spirituality and home.
We're going to take a little break. WNDZ 750 AM on your dial, 312-255-8408, Catholic Chicago. We're speaking with Judge Tom Donnelly and Jack Shea. When we come back, I'd like to have you folks address something I heard. A friend of ours' dad is a lawyer. He passed away, but she became a lawyer. And at the toast, he said, "May you always have a passion for justice." And maybe when we come back, if we could talk a little bit about that. And then, Jack, if I could impose on you, especially with Wilton becoming a cardinal, that beautiful poem you wrote for Murph about the bishop, the ring of the bishop. You may remember some of it. If not, maybe you can search your files now. But I'd love to hear a little bit of that in honor of Wilton, too. So we'll be back in a few minutes. Please stay tuned.
Okay.
Throughout our nation and our world, people of all faiths have recently been joining fervently in all kinds of prayer. They have found that coming together in prayer is a source of comfort and strength. In this spirit of unity, the Archdiocese of Chicago has introduced a call to prayer, a telephone line dedicated to prayer. If you would like to join with another person in prayer, call 312-741-3388. This line is staffed from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. daily with parishioners from across the Archdiocese of Chicago. These volunteers are here to listen to you, offer support, and pray with you. A call to prayer includes a 24-hour voicemail and email options as well. Experience this wonderful opportunity to join with people just like you who trust in the power of prayer. That phone number again is 312-741-3388. Let's pray together today.
A Catholic faith-based education enriches both your mind and your heart. Academic standards are strong, and so is the feeling of community. 96% of our graduates go on to college. If you think a Catholic high school education is for you, keep these dates in mind. Registration is now open for the Catholic High School Entrance Exam, which will take place on Saturday, December 5th. Students should take the exam at the high school they hope to attend next year. For more information, log on to our website, schools.archchicago.org.
Catholic Charities' celebration of giving is underway, and we need your help more than ever. Now in its 73rd year, the celebration of giving was started by a group of adoptive parents who wanted to buy gifts for children who had not yet been adopted. This wonderful idea spread at Catholic Charities, and last year, 25,000 gifts were given to people who would otherwise have nothing to open Christmas Day. Our online partners make it easy to donate toys. Gift cards are so appreciated by teenagers, too. Gather your friends, family, colleagues, and neighbors and join this huge, awesome outpouring of kindness that is filled with the spirit of Christmas. To learn more, visit catholiccharities.net/celebration or call 312-655-7401. Thank you from everyone at Catholic Charities.
Chicago, 312-255-8408. We're talking with Jack Shea and with Tom Donnelly about the Catholic Lawyers Guild Advent Retreat, bringing all we are into what we do. Spiritual practices in our work as lawyers and in our homes as Christians.
Anyway, there was something, you did the same thing I did. In our homes at Christmas. My eyes are so bad.
What did I say?
As Christians, that's what I said.
Oh!
So I can't even get the retreat title
I
right.
listened so intently to Greg. It influences
So sorry
all
about
of my
that.
thinking.
In our home at Christmas.
Thank you. Now, before the break, I thought we'd take a little sidestep and honor Wilton Gregory on being, what did they say, installed as cardinal for
Or
us.
elevated.
Elevated as cardinal. But you wrote that beautiful, is the book, if I remember, is it In the Hour of the Unexpected? Is that what book it's in?
It's in the second book of poetry called "The God Who Fell from Heaven."
The God Who Fell. And you can get that on Amazon, right?
I think so.
Good.
It's out of print, but there may be some floating
Jack,
around.
Jack, you are a prolific writer. How many books have you written over the years?
Oh, it's probably around 25.
Wow.
25.
Wow.
That's and they're just
Yeah, bad habits die hard.
yeah, but you're a tremendous writer, and you're one of the best storytellers I have ever heard. Well, but now,
Father Greg, one of the benefits of registering for this retreat is when you register, there's a link to Jack's books.
Oh, wonderful.
okay.
So, and while the cost to attend the retreat is $0, the price for Jack's books is minimal. But I'd invite everybody to go on clgchicago.org, register for this free retreat, and then you'll be connected with the ACTA publishing link.
Now, Tom, before Jack gives the poem honoring then Bishop Tom Murphy, when is this Catholic Lawyers Guild retreat happening?
It's this Saturday, December 5th, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Via Zoom, and you can go to clgchicago.org and learn all the details of how you register for this free retreat.
So it cost?
No cost, but you have to register.
And register early, get a free picture of Judge Tom Donnelly.
And we have almost 100 registrants right now.
That's
really
wonderful.
That's
So
tremendous.
It's just, it's really, I think, it will be a very moving and rewarding
and I think
occasion
especially,
for us.
we'll get into this after Jack reads that poem, but somehow right now, because of COVID-19, people's lives were turned upside down the last 8 months and will continue as they talk about the pandemic surging the next few weeks. And with social unrest, we need to step back, to step into our world, into a different way. And no one does it better than Jack. And I think, as you mentioned, Tom, the importance of taking the time to, again, connect the mystery of God with our lives, and which is so important. But maybe for a moment, Jack, the name of the poem and what made you write this, and what year was it?
It was the year Tom Murphy, who was the rector of Mundelein at the time, was made a bishop and went to Montana. And I wanted to give him some type of going-away gift, and so I wrote this poem. And it was an attempt to look at the life of Peter in the Gospels and draw out pastoral guidelines with sort of tongue-in-cheek about here are the pastoral guidelines. And so never forget, there are things more important than fishing nets. Preside like a man unafraid to sink. Wherever life is transfigured, build a tent, for it is good. Beware, even the maids in the courtyard know when your speech betrays you. Remember, the argument about who is first takes place on the road to the cross. Always acknowledge in the troubled mix of flesh and blood the Son of the living God. Listen for the Spirit in everyone, even Cornelius. Sin with the heart that swims naked to shore, and not with the mind that will not be washed. Run with the young whenever tombs turn up empty. Wilton, may your crozier be as lean as a prophet's staff, and your ring fit the finger of everyone.
Amen.
Amen. I mean,
Beautiful.
Tom, when you think about what Jack just read with his beautiful poem, you could spend the entire Saturday 4 hours taking that poem apart
Yes.
for all of our lives. Jack, that was beautiful. That is powerful.
Thank you.
And Tom, I got to ask you a question. That is, what does this retreat mean to you in your own personal life? Because sometimes people forget. They say, "Oh, Judge Thomas Moore Donnelly," but that is your work title. What about the man, the Christian, the believer, the husband, the dad? Connect. What does the retreat mean to you?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. The period of the COVID-19 has really, has stopped us. We're no longer able to do many of the things that we do. I no longer go into the Daily Center. I do court via Zoom every day. I can't visit my 90-year-old mom as freely as I could because of worries about the pandemic. Some of our kids who do work where they have to be in contact with other people can't be in contact with us. So this is a stoppage of the way that things were. And some things are going to be stopped forever. Businesses are closing that we loved, right? All of us have had restaurants or stores that have closed, and just had a friend who owns a restaurant nearby me say he's closing up for good. And so there's a lot of ending that's going on and a lot of grieving that needs to be done for the things that are no longer the way they were. But it also is a time for opening up to newness of life. And I think we do that in the Advent season when we're awaiting the Messiah, is we're waiting for Christ to be born in us. And Christ is born in that darkness. And so I'm hoping for an opportunity to see anew Christ coming into my life in the midst of all this darkness, in the midst of the suffering and the loss, in the midst of a change that wasn't chosen, a change that was thrust upon us. So that's what I'm hoping for in the 4 hours that we spend together on Saturday.
Tom, that was beautifully said. Wow.
Why did you choose to be a lawyer, Tom?
Well, I worked out for a priest in Santa Fe, Mexico, Blaise Shower, Dominican liturgist. And I was out there for 2 years working as executive director for his liturgical training foundation. And my dad called me up and said, I'm about to go over to London to do a fellowship, and your grandfather's not doing so well. I'd like you to come back to Chicago to after him. And so I came back to Chicago, but I didn't know what I was going to do. I'd sort of been working for this priest out in Santa Fe. And my dad said, well, why don't you go to law school? And I said, well, I sort of thought of it.
How old were you at the time, Tom?
I was, let's see, it would have been 24.
Okay.
I sort of thought of it, but it was really sort of, God writes straight with our crooked lines. I wasn't really intending on going to law school, but I had to do something. I was there visiting my grandfather and taking care of him. But there were, I had more hours in the day. And the sort of calling to law evolved. I sort of got into it. And then, as Greg knows, the most powerful part of my vocation to law was Justice Mary Ann McMorrow, for whom I clerked after law school, who shaped the entirety of my vocation to law. And that's what, of course, everyone needs. They need a person, a mentor, that is the whole package, as Justice Mary Ann McMorrow is and still is in heaven, guiding us. And the Guild was so important to her. And she got me on the board of the Guild during my clerkship and said, this is the one thing I'd really like you to be active in. And so I've been active since 1986 in the Catholic Lawyers Guild because of her.
And you've done such a tremendous job. Jack, in listening to Tom, in the hundreds and hundreds of retreats you have given and talks and the books you have written, how do you look at this whole pandemic in the lives of people the last 8 months. I mean, literally, our world has been turned upside down. Before the pandemic, life is difficult. And all of a sudden with this, when people ask me now, how are you doing, Greg? I say, well, grinding. You take one day at a time. You try to be positive. You try to be positive and hope-filled, and God is with us, and God will see us through. But what's your take in light of what Tom just said?
Well, I think you described it very well. I think that everyone is stressed because our physical lives, our social lives, our economic lives, everything is under threat at all different levels, and that people are engaged in trying to respond to that in the best way possible and navigate it, negotiate it, and get through it. And at the same time, though, there's the deeper question of how do we sustain our spirits and allow our spirits to give us inspiration and guidance as we engage this threat that is across the board here. And I think that a lot of times what days of retreats, like we're going to do, is they teach us how to get back into the spiritual world and bring our spiritual depth into the challenges in our physical, social, economic life that we're living. And so I think that's and as you suggested, I think it's a day by day, it's a grinding process, but it's a process through spiritual practices we can also resource and help us.
Let me ask you this, Jack. What does Advent mean to you? If someone were to ask you, Jack, what is Advent? How do you summarize? What do you tell people?
I'd say what Advent is a time, as almost all different liturgical seasons are. It's a time to pause and go into the deeper parts of life so that we can relate to them and bring them forward as we engage the day in, day out work that we have to do. And we need these special times to do that as well as we need the everydayness of it all.
Do you want to repeat for our listeners where they can sign up for our Catholic Lawyers Guild, the Advent Retreat?
Yes, just go on the web, clgchicago.org, clgchicago.org. Register today.
And the date of the retreat again?
It's December 5th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Zoom, and you'll be given the Zoom link as you register.
And one little personal note, as we're all talking, the one image that I have that helps me get through this is we just got a picture from our little 4 granddaughters who are decorating the Christmas tree. They still have the joy. They still have the in their eyes, you can see that they can still find the joy. And I guess that's probably a challenge that we all have. And hopefully this retreat will help anybody that attends to help find the joy that we all believe is rooted in our faith.
The light in the darkness.
Exactly.
Yes.
And whole Advent moving from darkness to light. I want to thank in a very, very, very special way Jack Shea, retreat master, theologian, author. Jack, you've been a gift to the people of God for so many years, and also great to hear Ann's voice in the background, too. And also want to thank Judge Thomas Moore Donnelly, who is the Associate Judge, Circuit Court of Cook County. Big retreat coming up this Saturday for all lawyers, bringing all who are into what we do, spiritual practices in our work as lawyers, in our home at Christmas. So Jack and Tom, thank you very much for joining us this morning. May God bless you and your families, and stay healthy and stay safe. Our phone number 312-255-8408, WNDZ 750 AM. Father Greg Sakowicz and Mark Teresi, stay with us. Do not touch that dial. We'll be back in a moment.
When you think of the word neighbor, warm and friendly thoughts come to mind. Think of smiles across the yard, positive wishes, and looking out for one another on an ongoing basis. Catholic Charities Neighbors in Need Fund inspires all of these and much more. We've seen an unprecedented number of requests for assistance this year from people who have never needed help before. When you make your gift to the Neighbors in Need Fund, you are igniting hope in the lives of your most vulnerable neighbors, especially individuals and families who continue to struggle to put food on the table and keep a roof over their heads. Your gift will give them the resources they need to overcome the unexpected, very serious circumstances in which they find themselves now. Give online at CatholicCharities.net or call 312-948-6087. That's 312-948-6087. Catholic Charities Neighbors in Need Fund. Thank you for helping build a world of kindness, one neighbor to another.
A Catholic faith-based education enriches both your mind and your heart. Academic standards are strong, and so is the feeling of community. 96% of our graduates go on to college. If you think a Catholic high school education is for you, keep these dates in mind. Registration is now open for the Catholic High School Entrance Exam, which will take place on Saturday, December 5th. Students should take the exam at the high school they hope to attend next year. For more information, log on to our website, schools.archchicago.org.
It has been inspiring to see how individuals, families, and communities have found ways to help one another throughout 2020. At Catholic Charities, we usually have 35 to 40 events a year where we gather and enjoy time together in support of important programs and services, while raising critical funds that allow us to respond to the growing number of people who are in need of the most basic necessities in life. Many of our events are now virtual. If you would like to be a sponsor for one of these events, please call 312-948-6864. That's 312-948-6864. Also, visit us at CatholicCharities.net/events and follow us on social media too. We so look forward to when we can resume our events in person and reconnect with our friends and partners throughout Chicagoland. For now, please consider donating to Catholic Charities so our vital work can continue. Thousands of people in Chicago count on Catholic Charities every day. Please help us help them today. Learn more at CatholicCharities.net.
You're listening to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM. Every Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., the Archdiocese of Chicago presents programming about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Thanks for letting us be part of your morning. Now again, Catholic Chicago.
Welcome back to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM. Father Greg Sakowicz and Mark Teresi. The time is exactly 8:34 in Chicago. Coming off the debacle last night of the Packers crushing the Chicago Bears 41-25. And Mark, the final score does not even indicate how bad it was.
No, we were saying that first round of the first downs that the Green Bay had at the beginning of the game told you what the game was going to be.
They methodically marched up and down the field, and the Bears got about 15 garbage points in the fourth quarter, but that was a gift from the Packers. And
the only gift was it put me to sleep, so I had a nice sound sleep.
TV was done. I shut off at halftime, went back to doing desk work. And 312-255-8408, a very, very important topic, backed by popular demand. Dr. Edward Gordon, author, writer, speaker, gifted, very involved with Holy Name Cathedral. Dr. Edward Gordon and his wife Elaine have been involved for many years at Holy Name Cathedral. Dr. Edward Gordon, welcome back to Catholic Chicago. How are you, Edward?
Well, I'm fine. How are you, Father Greg?
Doing as well as can be expected. As we say, we talk often and one day at a time. And you've been on the program a lot since the pandemic started. And I know that Mark and I were with you the first time for the pandemic back in early April when we asked you, Edward, if this were a ball game, it'd be about the second inning, you said. Mm-hmm. And then about 6 weeks ago, a month ago, we asked you, okay, Edward, if this were a ball game with a continuing pandemic, what inning would it be now? You said roughly the fourth, maybe the fifth. So we have to ask you now as a first question, as we continue with this pandemic, what inning are we in?
Once the vaccines start coming out, which is the good news, we'll be in the sixth.
Wow.
We'll see the light at the end of the tunnel, but we have to get to the end of the tunnel.
Are we back to the third inning because of the surge coming?
No, because we know how to treat people better as long as the hospitals are not overwhelmed. The death rate will be lower than it was before. And we know how to keep people from getting infected. That's the sad part. You know, just like the Packer game, that wasn't a conspiracy that the Bears lost, guys, right? And this is not a conspiracy either.
Yeah.
Let's start out with some good news. First of all, we now have both Moderna and Pfizer announcing that they'll have drugs, vaccines that are reliable and ready to be issued very soon. In fact, some now say that at the beginning of December, they may start inoculating healthcare workers. Mm-hmm. And the Health and Human Services Administration just announced that they believe that all senior citizens should be able to get shots if a vaccine becomes available before the end of 2020, but they think by the end of January, seniors will be able to get shots.
Now, right? Edward, are there some bad side effects with these vaccines?
That is true in 99.9% of the time. There are no bad side effects. The swine flu from the 70s, there were about 400 people who got sick because of it. But when you consider that out of the hundreds of thousands of people that got the vaccine, it was 400, it was a very small sample. So the whole conspiracy theory that vaccines are bad for you that has been running in this country for several decades is false. There is no scientific proof that these vaccines are going to be harmful for the vast majority of the people who take them. All right? So let's move on, because there's a lot to report today, and let's talk about the fact that the positivity rate in the city of Chicago has been falling. It went up at the beginning of November, and it was at 12.4%. That was a week ago. Now it's down to 11.7%. So that is very, very good. And that's something that is a hopeful sign that people actually are following directions and wearing masks and not gathering in huge crowds. All right? Mm-hmm. Now, across the United States, right now, we have a surge. And Fauci just warned there may be a surge built upon a surge, right, because of all the people that traveled for Thanksgiving. And, that is something that we'll be able to see clearly within the next 2 weeks. But right now, we have over 13 million confirmed cases. We're going up at the rate of 1 million cases a week of people that have the virus. And
now, that's a staggering number.
That's a staggering number. It is. And it is a staggering number because now there are no safe places in the United States. I want to repeat this. Mm-hmm. So people travel across the U.S., across state lines by car, plane, bus, train, whatever, all right? So, again, we want to point out whether you're in a rural area or you're in a major city or a suburb, north, south, east, or west, what we talked about last March has now happened. The virus now has spread throughout all 50 states and around the world. This is not unusual. Over 62 million people have it around the world. About 1.5 million have died. In our country, we have seen over 266,000 people have died. Now, for those of you out there that say, so what? Let me put it to you this way. Click it or ticket got you to wear a seatbelt. There were 26,000 Americans who died on the highways last year. We now have 266,000 Americans who have died. If that were the highways, and we announced that, the outrage by the public would be, what's wrong with public officials? Why don't we have public safety standards to protect us when we drive our cars? Well, the question is, why aren't people using the standards that we have established? Walking up and down the street, because the virus can be spread up to 9 feet in the air, or within parties, social gatherings, etc. 266,000. Some estimates say if it continues this way, we could be over 400,000 by February the 1st.
Wow.
That's more people that died in the Second World War in combat.
Wow, and that sobering note, let's take a little break. WNDZ 750 AM on your dial, 312-255-8408, Catholic Chicago. We're talking with Dr. Ed Gordon. When we come back, let's talk a little bit more, Ed, about what we can still do to keep this virus arrested.
Right.
Okay, we'll be back in a few minutes. Please stay tuned.
Catholic Charities staff members work every day to end poverty and homelessness. We do this on a one-to-one basis with anyone who asks for help. We also work with organizations who study these issues across our city, state, and nation. The Wilson Sheehan Lab for Economic Opportunities, or LEO, at the University of Notre Dame is one of these research centers. Through our partnership with LEO, Catholic Charities has gained valuable insights into scientific evaluation methods that determine the most effective interventions to help people avoid poverty and homelessness. Along with our experience and compassion, trusted research is helping Catholic Charities offer hope and so much more to anyone in need. For more information, visit CatholicCharities.net. Catholic Charities' celebration of giving is underway, and we need your help more than ever. Now in its 73rd year, the celebration of giving was started by a group of adoptive parents who wanted to buy gifts for children who had not yet been adopted. This wonderful idea spread at Catholic Charities, and last year, 25,000 gifts were given to people who would otherwise have nothing to open Christmas Day. Our online partners make it easy to donate toys. Gift cards are so appreciated by teenagers, too. Gather your friends, family, colleagues, and neighbors and join this huge, awesome outpouring of kindness that is filled with the spirit of Christmas. To learn more, visit CatholicCharities.net/celebration or call 312-655-7401. Thank you from everyone at Catholic Charities. Catholic Charities Divine Affair home tasting parties are going virtual. This year marks the 20th anniversary of Divine Affair, the elegant wine tasting event that benefits our self-sufficiency programs. Low-income single parents with dependent children are trying to break the cycle of welfare and poverty. Today, the need is greater than ever as the COVID-19 pandemic has left thousands of newly struggling families in need of immediate assistance. You can easily coordinate a virtual wine tasting and help Catholic Charities at the same time. Each guest will enjoy a sample wine kit that includes wine and a guide, all courtesy of Louis Glenn's Wines. You can gather your friends and family for this fun event or incorporate a celebration for a birthday, anniversary, or engagement at the same time. To learn more about a virtual home tasting party and how you and your guests can win fabulous raffle prizes, call today at 773-756-6937. That's 773-756-6937. Cheers!
We're back at WNDZ 750 AM on your dial, 312-255-8408. This is Catholic Chicago with Father Greg Sakowicz, Mark Teresi here, and we're talking.
And we are social distancing, and we are the mask,
and the mask,
and we are live streamed.
And we are live streaming. Hello to everybody who's tuning in to live, which is a wonderful. I mean, talk about one benefit, if you have to look at it that way, of this pandemic is how people are communicating very differently than they used to.
Well, Zooms, live streaming, it's incredible changes.
It's not the same as person to person, but at least it keeps people connected. Now, we had, before the break, and I said I was going to ask you, so what else can we do before the vaccine comes, and the vaccine will take a while to take effect? What can we continue doing to keep those numbers down?
Okay. Well, you mentioned two things: masks, social distancing, washing your hands after you come in contact with others or objects, avoiding crowds, also avoiding propaganda. You know, I've talked to doctors across the country, and many of them say it's not just fighting the flu, it's fighting the disillusionment and misinformation about these issues. If it's a constant battle, it's a never-ending war to persuade people that this is a life and death issue.
You call it the plague.
Well, we're going from a national health emergency to a national health catastrophe unless people listen. Such as the governor of South Dakota, 43% positivity rate in her state, the highest in the country. She refuses to issue a mask mandate. A health official in southern Italy, he said before he was fired, he claimed that people only got COVID if they engaged in prolonged kissing.
Oh, my God.
All right. So what we're talking about here, again, is the power of propaganda that is undermining this. When you see credible information issued by not just health officials, but by 99% of the media, and this discussed around the world. Now, if you believe that all the governments of the world are in collusion for a vast conspiracy, the Justice Department, the FBI, all the health officials, the majority of the governors, and of course now all these courts, and these judges were appointed by Democrats and Republicans, they're all involved in this vast conspiracy. If you think that that is still true at this point, I would suggest you need to sit down very carefully and rethink some of what you say is the basis of truth.
Now, Edward, just what you're saying there, this is important for me, and that is I have friends who thinks is overrated, overdone, that the numbers are so high with the death rate because, as a couple friends say to me, that someone has a heart attack and they call it COVID-19 death just to get the numbers up.
Yes.
And also that, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, in South Dakota, they have the highest death rate in the world.
That's right, exactly.
Per capita.
Correct. Well, look,
people.
Again, where on social media people can put anything on social media. They can spread whatever rumor, propaganda, or outright lies. What is the data that supports their claim? There are claims being made today that basically there's no evidence behind, all right? Now, propaganda is issued by both political parties at different times. No one is immune from this. The key to you, your listeners, is what is the source of the information? Is there more than one source saying the same thing? And what is the expertise of that source? All right?
Ed, where do you go for your what's the most credible resourcing you have?
Well, my suggestion to your viewers is this. If you read the Tribune and the Wall Street Journal, maybe you should read the New York Times too, and maybe the Financial Times or the Economist magazine. don't get most of your information merely from television or social media platforms, because a lot of that is either unverified or sensational press headlines, all right? Look for things that are confirmed by multiple major sources of information. And, and of course, I own, as you both know, I'm the president of a research firm, and we get information from a wide variety of sources. And some of it is contradictory, and some of it changes over time. So it's not a question of maintaining a position on something indefinitely, and it's never going to change. Things do change, all right? And it's going to take time and effort upon the part of people to reconfirm what's going on and to know what to do, all right?
So our daughter-in-law decided it was a very hard decision for her, but she's conducting preschool and kindergarten in her home.
Yes.
She did not want to send our little Lydia yet to kindergarten.
Yeah.
What does she have to look forward to this next year?
Well, we know that children transmit the disease. The younger ones are less virulent than the teenagers. And we know that if that virus is transmitted to people, particularly over 65, it can be very deadly. Mm-hmm. But we also know that people in younger age groups also get sick, and many of them survive, but they have long-term health issues because of the still hidden nature of this COVID-19 that we still don't fully understand, because COVID-19 wasn't even discovered until less than a year ago. Mm-hmm. So there's still things we don't know.
So brand new.
That's right, exactly.
Now, our phone number is 312-255-8408, 312-255-8408. Edward, what is the... I got a little hoarse there this morning.
That's okay.
What is the most frustrating thing for you as you listen to people? What drives you nuts?
When someone in the hospital tells a doctor that I guess I should have worn a mask, and they're either in denial of the COVID or they're now dying from it. And right now, more than 1,000 hospitals across the United States report that they are critically understaffed. There's a huge shortage. I've talked about this before in prior months, and now it's spreading as the hospitals become jammed. And the sad part is going to be, I fear now, sometime in December or January, many hospitals will start turning people away who need to be hospitalized, and the death rate will go up. Right now, the death rate is still lower than it was when the virus first came out. Because why? Well, we have the drugs, the antivirals to treat it, and and the healthcare workers are doing a great job. But now I talk to doctors. My best friend is an infectious disease doctor, and he was telling me how people now are sitting in emergency room waiting for a bed, and people sitting up in chairs are dying, sitting up in the emergency room waiting because they don't have any beds.
Wow. Now let me go back to, I know from our previous conversations, one of your ministries at Holy Name, you lecture, you do a beautiful job lecturing, but the hospital visiting is one of your ministries. How are you dealing with not being? I mean, I'm sure that's was a part of your life to go visit folks, bring Christ to them, bring healing to them, and you can't do that right now. When do you see that door opening up for you in 2021?
Only once I have a vaccine.
Okay.
And what I'm doing now, and I think Father Greg can testify to this, I'm trying to help the priests at Holy Name to better do their work and support them.
Wonderful.
Because the priests are under tremendous stress right now.
Say that again to our listeners, for anybody in their parishes, that what you're doing and how they can help.
Well, psychologically, psychologically and spiritually support your local priests. Financially, too, obviously. But more importantly, the delivering of the sacraments has been severely disrupted. And priests are now called to hospitals when people die. And even then, it's under very controlled conditions. And funerals are under very controlled conditions. Think about this for a moment. If we have 400,000 people die by February 1st, which is now a pretty good chance that that's going to happen, unfortunately, what impact do you think this is going to have on the doctors, the nurses, the funeral homes, the priests that presided all of those funerals? And I can tell you now, the priests are ordained and sanctified by God for their ministry, but they're human beings.
Exactly.
And we need to give them all of the support we can. And in my case, I also try to give them all the information I can give them so that they have a better understanding of what is going on across the country and around the world. All right? And now this past Sunday, the Pope published a beautiful letter in the New York Times entitled "A Crisis Reveals What Is in Our Hearts." And what he says here is that we have to overcome the antibody. The greatest antibody to this crisis is indifference. We all have a role to play here to help one another, to help the people who are caregivers, spiritual givers like priests, more than ever before. But the pandemic has exposed the paradox that while we are more connected, people have become more divided.
And that's a great line. That's
Yeah,
a great line.
well, it's true. And
Very true.
you know, and we need to understand that as a nation, we have a shared destiny. And the pandemic has reminded us that no one can be saved alone. This is the foundation of not only medicine, but the spiritual reality of the respect for life. We are anti-abortion. We do not believe that elderly people should be put to death because they're elderly or very sick. What about our responsibility when we walk down the street and we could be spreading death to people passing us, or in meetings, or family gatherings, or in businesses, all right? We can prevent this surge if we become more responsible for ourselves.
You know, Edward, we need to bring the program to a close, believe it or not. We've run out of time.
Okay.
And I want to thank in a very, very special way Dr. Edward Gordon, historian, writer, researcher. You've done a marvelous job. You'll be back on the program again soon, Edward. Here's the thing. You're not a doomsayer.
No. I'm saying to people, never give up.
Exactly.
Right.
You call it as it is. So I want to thank Dr. Edward Gordon and give our love to Elaine. Special thanks to co-host Mark Teresi. Mark, you're off to a funeral, I know,
Yes.
and our prayers are with you.
Thank you.
Special thanks to our producer, Vince Girasoli, our engineers, Michael May and Javier Garcia. Great job, gentlemen. And to all, God bless you. Have a blessed week. Stay healthy. Stay safe.
Join us every Monday through Friday at this time for Catholic Chicago. You can stream our programs live or listen to past programs by visiting our website, archchicago.org, and clicking on Radio TV. And please connect with Catholic Chicago on social media.